3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I'm your host, Fahima Mohammed, and your relationship and couples coach. A very, very warm welcome to all of you watching across Facebook or Twitter or even live on Sky Channel 752. I really do appreciate all the support and everybody that's tuning in. And already we're getting messages on WhatsApp and it's absolutely amazing. I also want to say that I would love to hear some of your comments or questions. And if you do want to call in tonight, speak to myself or my guest, you're more than welcome to join in the conversation. And you can do so by calling in live in the studio on 019-24231-083. We do have a national rate that bill that does apply. So please do ask the bill payer's permission before you do call in. As well as if you want to call in anonymously by sending a message, you can do on WhatsApp, which is a free service, and that's 07585835150. I would love to introduce my guest tonight, who is Sara Malik. Assalamu alaikum, Sara.
Wa alaikum assalam, Fahima.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure to have you tonight. And what an amazing topic we have as well for everybody that's watching. Is love enough? We talk about relationships all the time, and we absolutely adore the fact that when we are feeling that special way with somebody, that it will last forever. And obviously we think that, you know, this is it. When we are in love, that love is something that would be cherished and it will solve all our problems in the future, regardless of what we go through, no matter how many years and all the obstacles and the challenges. Is that really true, Sara? You know, it is something that we do need to discuss because we have so many challenges today. And it is a really good foundation, right? You have to feel something, and it doesn't always start in that way. And sometimes it does. But this is something that we're going to discuss tonight with Sara. But before we do, can we ask you, Sara, to just quickly describe what you do and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you, Fahima, on Single Muslim Live, and to be discussing this really, really precious topic, is love enough? And just to answer your question, I'm a fulfillment and intimacy coach for Muslimahs, and I help Muslim women and couples to cultivate love and respect in their relationships, in their lives, so they can be fulfilled and also live a satisfying life, not just in terms of their own lives, but in terms of the relationships that they have, in terms of their vocation, their calling. And yeah, what you said earlier was really important, I think, and that is, you know, love is a really important foundation. And is often the very first thing that is already there or grows. But how do we keep that going is the burning question for today.
Definitely. To be honest, we're getting the messages coming in really quickly, and I've got one already. It's probably someone that you know, actually. It's from Isa, who's actually said so far on WhatsApp that working with Sara has been amazing. I started my healing journey with Sara just under 2 years ago. It was so much more than the issues I thought needed addressing. The more we dug together, the more I realized how much I needed to address. Sara is patient, kind, and very warm in a way she deals with difficult conversations. 2 years later, I'm a different person. I'm happier and stronger, and I've learned that it's okay to put yourself first. It's not selfish. Yes, things still needs working through, but I would 100% recommend anyone having a tough time to pick up the phone and contact Sara and begin their journey of healing. Thank you so much for that message. It's really heartfelt, and I can hear the caller, the person that sent it in, as to how deep you have actually made an impact on your clients so far. So that's amazing start. When it comes to love, there's different definitions, and obviously it changes over time as well. That's something that we need to consider, and not both parties will have the same feeling at the same time consistently. How would you respond to that? Let's just say there's a couple that has been married, because we do find these cases when it's, you know, beyond 6-7 years. There is a change in connection. And do you think that there's a, you know, lack of love, or is it a different love? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's really nice how you've said that. And first of all, thank you so much to Isa for writing in. That was really nice. And I loved what Isa said, that, you know, you end up, when you work on yourself, you end up addressing so many different issues. And often you think it's a relationship issue, or you think it's a communication issue, but often it's quite deeply rooted. And this concept of love is like what you said, you know, there's different types of love. And the types of love that we are needed and are present at the beginning of a relationship are very different to the types of love that come afterwards, after children, after, you know, daily grind. And the way that Cherished Muslimahs like to see it is love is a verb. It's something that you do. It's something that you speak. We use the love languages a lot by Gary Chapman in the Cherished Muslimah community. And that is looking at how the other person wants to be loved, because we all want to be loved in a particular way, right? And that's where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that you will not truly believe until you love one another, and you will not truly believe until you love for your brother what you want for yourself. And we want to be loved in our own particular way. So if we love others in the way that they want to be loved, we've got more of a it provides a beautiful foundation for that love to prosper and flourish. So what you were saying about the different types of love, you know, if we are seeing love as a verb, it's about looking at what we need to do to cultivate that love, even if that's after 7 years. And what we also see is that love has seasons. So you've got a, you know, exciting type of love, and then you've got a reflective type of love. You've even got a love which requires distance from one another. And that might be giving yourself love whilst your spouse gives them self-love, and just having a bit of separation, knowing that you can come back to that romantic love once again.
I love that. I absolutely love what you just said about the different types of love and the way you described it. And I think the important thing is that people realize when people are pulling away at some point, not all of it means that they have a lack of love. It just means they need to just sort out their own things. And I think that's such an important takeaway right now from that, you know, the last point that you made, because a lot of us interpret it that, you know, once you love someone, we have to be in their pockets all the time, and they have to, you know, spend all of that sort of like emotion and sharing emotion. And yeah, maybe at the beginning it may be okay. And normally it's actually even before the marriage. So, you know, when that courting period, but when you get married and you settle down and life just happens and you are still an individual, do you think that men and women interpret love and, you know, show love differently? I'm not going into the 5 languages. I'm just talking about general terms. Do you think that, you know, men, especially in our communities, I always find that women complain that, you know, their spouse do not communicate that. It doesn't matter if they know it or not. They just don't feel it. They don't feel it from their partners that they're actually loved. Is that something that you come across, or is that, you know, not that common? What do you think?
No, it's totally, like, it's so common and it's so understandable. And I think that comes down to the ethos behind Cherished Muslimah, and that is acknowledging that men and women are different in their own ways, and femininity has been given a really bad rep. It's been given, you know, it's been said to be weak, feeble, women who are too feminine get thought of as being doormats or pushovers, and men often fear the strength that comes with masculinity. If they use that strength, they're going to be end up being labeled a bully. And if they show their feminine side, then they're going to be labeled as not being strong. So when they are perhaps growing up, even in their in their youth or going into early adulthood, if they haven't got that permission to be emotional, to be loving, to see love in their families, which often in Asian communities is not openly expressed. If they don't see that and if they don't learn that, then they might find it hard to communicate that. Now, that's not to say they're not feeling it inside, because they will probably, coming back to the love languages, be, doing acts of service and, showing physical affection, but the wife might want those words, and it's often the words that they need help with. And that's why coaching is really, really effective, because it teaches men and women the skills. It teaches them the words, even if they feel uncomfortable, to be able to express that. What do you think about that?
I think that's absolutely amazing what you've just said. And I think you've explained it really nicely. But the thing is, I've got so much questions coming through on WhatsApp right now. I'm going to go through them. So hopefully we can have a few at the side of the break before we get to the next. Okay, so we have one question, is anonymous, saying that, hello, would like to comment on the live show, but about Is Love Enough? And Sara's book explains the strategies and tactics that guide one to a fulfilling relationship that shows we can build on love. So I guess probably explain a little bit to me as to what you've written in your book, which I don't know if we've actually mentioned. What's the name of your book? And it actually does, well, someone's read it saying that it actually explains a lot of the strategies and tactics. And can you share some of those things on tonight's show?
Yeah, I'd love to. So yeah, coming to the book, it's the 4 traits of a cherished Muslimah.
Amazing.
And the pretext is how it takes more than just love to nourish your marriage. So that's why today's title is really apt. And what we cover in the 4 traits is, I suppose, when we're looking at the trait of love, we're looking at 3 particular habits. And the first one is gratitude. The second one is self-care and loving yourself. And the third one is giving love. So we always start with gratitude in Cherished Muslimah. Well,
before we go back to those tactics, I just want to say that we are coming up to a short break, and we're going to continue with Sara after this break. But do stay tuned. Please stay with us. This is really exciting. It's going by so quickly, but I have so many questions that is coming through WhatsApp, which I'm going to read out at the other side of the break. And inshallah, we'll see you in a few minutes. Make sure you grab a cup of tea or coffee, and we will see you in a short while.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We are here with Sara Malik discussing Is Love Enough? And we've got so many messages. I'm going to go straight to it. Actually, there's quite a long one, so please bear with me. And hopefully you can answer it in your own sort of like time and sort of chronologically. So it says, salam to Fahima, to our guest as well today, fulfillment and intimacy coach. Sara, I do believe love is enough for a long-lasting marriage. As human beings, I would say majority Muslims want to be loved and feel as they are good with their partners, inshallah. If they have children, for example, show their children what true love is and what genuine love is, along with being a good parent. Could say love isn't enough in the aspects of the bedroom. For example, a Muslim lady who is waiting for marriage, she could want to try the romantic stuff in the bedroom and want this in her marriage more. Respect, trust, and communication are all reasons a marriage would work. Very good. Thank you so much for that message. I really love it. Well, what's your thoughts on that, Sara? There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on there. And thank you so much for sending in that comment. And what I would say is I completely get that, you know, we need so much love, and even with parenting in the bedroom. But I love what you said right at the end. And I don't know the exact words, but it was trust and respect and communication. Was that right?
Commitments.
And so yeah, I mean, it's more than just love. It's also trust. It's also communication, and that is such a big thing on its own. Now, you could love someone to bits, but if you're not communicating that properly, or communicating in the way that it's being received in the way that you intended, and respect. If you're loving but you're not being very respectful, now you could buy flowers, you could buy gifts, but if you're not being respectful to your spouse, that love might not be received very well, and you're sweet. Nothing's might fall on deaf ears if the respect isn't there. So I think the combination of everything that you said is really, really beautiful.
Well, that was the message from the actual you know, the viewer that was watching, so I can't take credit for that, so thank you so much. But we do have another question saying, which leads to the next one actually, from what you were talking about, the respect. It's like how to put boundaries without being disrespectful and trying to be firm and fair. I guess that's the reason why a lot of us, especially women maybe, might feel that if they were trying to set boundaries and have a particular way, that it might come across as disrespectful. How would you answer that?
So in Cherished Muslimah, we really focus on communication and the words that we use, really speaking for ourselves, and communicating what we want and what we need from the other, if that's your spouse or if it's your other family member. It's so important that we make our requests without complaining. And I love what the person who sent the message in wrote about it being firm but fair. So it's so important that it is fair. The request that we're making is fair. The boundary that we're putting down is fair. What sometimes isn't fair is when you put your boundary down for a particular thing, but then you don't respect your spouse's boundary when they put it down. So it has to be going both ways. So that firmness and that fairness at the end, I think that's the key in your answer.
That is very true. It has to be reciprocated. Actually, we have another question saying that how can you evolve in an environment where you are the only one that is being respectful of the other? That's quite a serious one, actually. Yeah. So how would you address that?
Yeah, so it is so important for every spouse to communicate their need for respect. And when you are being respectful and you're not getting it back, it's really, really soul destroying. And it's soul destroying for a lot of ladies that have to that experience this. But equally so, it's so soul destroying for the men who are being respectful and it's not being reciprocated back. At times like this, I really, really advise that person who's not being respected back to really strengthen themselves, whether that's through coaching, through therapy, through speaking to like-minded people. If it's a man, go and seek out your brotherhood, go and seek out a wise male who can help you. If it's a woman, seek out a sisterhood like Cherished Muslimah, or go to a professional that can help you, to role play, get the words out. I was just speaking to somebody this morning actually, and showing her how she could put down her boundary with a friend of hers who had hurt her. And I was encouraging her to speak for herself and her own feelings. And when we started with the role play, what she said was, you know what you did earlier? I thought that was really mean. No, she said, you were really mean. So I stopped her and I said, look, you're talking about her now, and you're talking about something you think of her, you're still not talking about yourself. So it is so important to just have that role play, to get those words out, to practice those words so you can put down firm boundaries and let the other person know that I'm not okay with being spoken to like this. And I'm not going to continue the conversation if you continue speaking to me like this. So could you please speak to me in a respectful manner? So just those words are so important, but often we don't say them. A classic example of that would be somebody I know who would say all these things and say, but they can't treat me like that. They shouldn't be speaking to me like that. And I would say, did you say that? And that person would say, no, but I thought it in my head. So it's important to actually get it out and let the other person know.
That is really useful tips over there. Thank you so much, Sara. It is important actually that we do speak what we're feeling, and you do get what you tolerate. And I know that, again, we are touching on certain aspects which might affect certain people. And if you are having an impact on this, please do remember that we do have a support system here on British Muslim TV. And if you want to reach us, please do get in contact on britishmuslim.tv/support. Thank you so much for sharing all of that so far. But let's look at today's generation, today's day and age. Women have changed. They have become more vocal. They have expressions which we never used before. Even our parents look at us thinking, oh my gosh, you talk so much. And, men's roles have changed in the house. Women's roles have changed in the house. So we're not actually that subservient, to be honest. We actually, we want love. We want commitment. We want it all. To some aspects, that's really good that we are actually being vocal, but other aspects, we kind of even sometimes taking over the male's role, and we can do it all. So how do you see that now in a marriage in today's day and age, where women's roles have changed and they have become a lot more empowered? I'm not saying that, that's a good thing or a bad thing. We're just generalizing here. But I just want to know that, have that changed in sort of like some of the households? What's your thoughts on this, Sara?
Yeah, so this is a massive, big question, right? And I think we'd need a full hour to just brush the surface of this. But definitely men and women's roles have changed so much. And in my view, for the better. Men are being more respectful. Women are being more self-respected. And that is working well for some people, but for others it's not working well because of the dynamics and the way it's reciprocated in their own small family units. Unfortunately, we do have a really big I don't want to say pandemic because of everything that's going on right now, but there's a big rise in society right now of, as you said, women being able to do it all. And I refer to the woman who does it all as Superwoman. But when Superwoman does it all and she doesn't need anyone else to help her, she will end up burning out, because we have taken on so many roles that we're using our adrenaline, we're using our cortisol, we're even using our limited levels of testosterone to get us through. And when all of those are depleted, we end up burning out. We end up becoming horrible. We end up becoming the martyr. We end up becoming the victim. And it's not serving us, it's not serving our health, and it's not serving our relationships. So women, it is possible for women to be so successful, to be empowered, to be vocal, and to do lots of things, but we have to take it within our stride. We have to do it from a place of nourishing ourselves, looking after ourselves, putting down boundaries, putting down really dignified boundaries, and also being able to nurture our relationships as well. And that's actually what the 4 traits of a cherished Muslimah is based on. It's based on these traits which are within us, which often we don't access and tap into, and we just go into overdrive with one trait. For example, all love, or all leadership, or all productivity. But when we just are tunnel focused, then we start to fall into disempowered ways that do not serve us.
That's absolutely brilliant. I mean, you've definitely dropped some amazing points there, actually. And it is true that we have to learn that we do need other people and our partners are there, and it's a team sort of effort. I think that's what it's about, regardless of how strong. And there are moments that you need support, the other person doesn't, and vice versa. And we need to be sort of like having that seesaw and balance it every now and again. We have another question, actually, from somebody who is asked, what do you do when the other person is not willing to accept that they are being disrespectful? I guess that's hit a nerve a lot of people where, unless you're on the same mindset, I'm sure people will understand that, okay, fine, I didn't see myself in this way. But now that, you've been called out and you don't want to accept it, that is quite a tough situation to be in. What would be your advice on that?
Well, firstly, I would just really like to appreciate that when we spoke about respect earlier, as British Muslim TV, you did put a support link up, and I think, like as you just said, it's hit a nerve, and when these nerves are touched and they affect us and they hurt us, it's often a sign that we need extra support. I'll never forget when Prince Harry spoke up about how depressed he got when his mother passed away, and how it was taboo for men to really speak about depression. Similarly, when we are communicating with our spouses that we are feeling disrespected and it's not acknowledged, that often is a sign that we need help. We need to either speak to someone, we need to get a couples coach involved, somebody who can really speak on our behalf and explain to the other person that their actions are not acceptable to us. Because the more so in the olden days, as you were saying, in terms of our parents' generation, so many of our elders just put up with it. And that resulted in different things. That resulted in depression. It resulted in...
That is brilliant, Sara. And I'm going to have to hold you there until we come back after the break. We've got, again, more messages coming through. And we are definitely on a roll right now. Thank you so much so far for everyone that's messaging. Please do come and continue. I will be saying more of them at the other end of the part of the show. And inshallah, we will see you in a few moments. Please do stay tuned and keep connected. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. You're watching Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We're here with Sara Malik, who is discussing, is love enough to nourish and maintain and sustain your marriage and relationships? And we have quite a few questions coming through just in that break. So I guess I'm going to go straight to it, Sara. Okay, so let's just start with the first one. Salams, a question to Sara. Love is a beautiful, yet marriages are failing extensively, and along with this, mental health is a huge issue in the UK. How do we divulge into the sensitive area of men and women with mental health issues who seek marriage or who are in marriages? How can they be coached, and is coaching available for this?
That's a very lovely question, and I suppose it would need more of a professional answer than mine. But suffice to say that if you do have a mental health issue, or the person that does have a mental health issue, it's so important that they get it treated. Because when you try to fix a marriage or work on a marriage or increase the love, but you've actually got some pre-existing conditions that require medication, you probably won't get the results that you need. So it is very possible with the right medication and with the right supervision from a medical professional, whether that's a psychiatrist.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Sara. We do have a caller online. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Fahima and Sara. I want to say, what about in Islam when men are looked at as if they're the head of the house and they have the final say and final decision? Sometimes I think that could be, depends on if someone's a good person, they'll follow it right and they'll be fair, but sometimes in our religion and culture, it could be like the man thinks that they can bully and think they're the boss of everything, and whatever they say that they have all choices. I think that's unhealthy. But anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for that, caller, and such an amazing, enlightening sort of statement there. What's your response to that, Sara?
Yeah, brilliant. And thank you so much for calling in and saying that, because that's actually one of the reasons that the 4 Traits of a Cherished Muslimah was written. And interestingly, I don't actually talk and mention that part in my book. And that's for a reason. And I think the main reason is because there is so many different points of view on this, of what it means for the man to be a leader. But alhamdulillah, with my teachers and the teachers that I've learned from, have really, really emphasized the point that, as you said, the husband is the one who is responsible for his family, but with that responsibility comes so much extra responsibility, the responsibility of justice and fairness and listening to everybody and choosing the best outcome for your family. So you actively would avoid doing things like bullying and pushing your own agenda. And yeah, everybody's different. And that's where our own intuition will let us know if the husband is being a bully or if he's being unfair. And it's so important to address that, and to address that as much as possible from a place of love, but also from a place of firmness and a place of wisdom, letting the husband know that what he is doing is actually not Islamic. The fact that he is seeing himself as the head of the family but not being a proper leader, that's not Islamic. So I think that really has to be addressed, and it also has to be pointed out quite openly and unashamedly.
Thank you. Yeah, no, lovely response. I love that. It's so true. There's so many definitions. As much as you can be a leader, at the end of the day, it's also taking care. And that makes a man a lot more of a leader when he has that influence, where he's, if he's got people under him, it's a responsibility not just to take charge, but to actually make them safe and secure and comfortable. And that is really important. We do have another message from Sara from Bake School saying, Salaam alaikum, Fahima and Sara. I just want to comment. I like how you are explaining the different ways to love and the different types of love and how to respect ourselves. MashaAllah, I'm learning so much. Thank you so much, Sara from Bake School. I really love that comment. Amazing. We do have another message as well. It's quite long, so please do bear with me. I'm going to go through it quickly as much as I can. It says that the idea of excess and balance of identifiable qualities in the archetypes is a way of self-observation that changes both outlook and actions. For me personally, Sara's comprehensive course has been broken down into manageable components that work. It has enabled me to examine, adjust, and balance my nurturing qualities so that I can set appropriate boundaries. You're getting some amazing love, Sara, from people that have read your book and followed your program. That's absolutely amazing. And really thank you for messaging and, calling in as well. I just want to go back to one of the sort of questions that I had myself with regards to, do you think that in today's day and age that even though we are showing love and giving love and we're showing up in a particular way, does it come from a place of, feeling that because we love that person, we don't want to set boundaries, because we love that person, we don't want to be firm to upset them, because we have love, we think that, we can hold ourselves back and all of a sudden it can play out the way it is. There is that scenario. What, again, would be your response to that?
Oh, so thank you for your question, Fahima, and thank you for Sara's comment, and thank you for the last comment that was sent in. And I think the last comment that was sent in kind of touches on, Fahima, your question, because in Cherished Muslimah, we really focus on archetypal energies, and one of the archetypal energies is love. When we were speaking about the male leader, often what happens is the man is so deep-rooted in his leadership trait that he forgets the love trait. So often a woman is so deep-rooted in her love trait that she forgets justice. So just as a summary for everybody, the 4 traits are leadership, love, justice, and wisdom. So whenever we are excess in any of the archetypal traits, we will become overexpressed. We will go into the shadows of that archetypal energy. And that's where you've got, Fahima, your example, where you love someone so much that you don't want to put any boundaries down. That is almost like addicted love. That's spoiling love. It's like the spoiling love of a mother. And that can be very detrimental. We know this when we see mothers spoiling their children. There has to be a level of discipline. There has to be a level of healthy holding back, even for ourselves. So we don't give too much of ourselves, that we lose our own identities. And we don't give too much to the other person so that they get a sense of false empowerment. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think, your program sounds brilliant. You've only given us a few snippets and already I'm like, lighting up in my head with all the amazingness that you've actually shared with us right now. And I hope people are actually watching, taking notes, actually, because this is really, really, really vital and jewel stuff, to be honest. It's a gem. When it comes to our busy lives, like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, we have children that come into our lives. We sometimes feel that we cannot actually give so much of ourselves, and we have to sort of like split ourselves between our husband, our children, or our wives and our children and our jobs, things like that. So there's only so much love to go around, or is there enough love to sustain and to give everyone at the same time and to show them? And how would we manage and balance this kind of love that we want to fester over, in our families and bring it home every night in our busy routines and our daily work? Is that even a possibility, Sara?
So I love your enthusiasm, Fahima. And when you were talking about it right at the beginning, I was like, oh, I want to say more. And then we kind of just move on, right? And I'm like, yeah. Fine, I just get to see that thing. But actually, one of the habits, so every single of, well, all 4 of the 4 traits have 3 habits each. And one of the habits of leadership and effective leadership is living a balanced life. It's so important. And that's where I use John Gray's work. John Gray's written he's the author of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, but he's written a really good book called How to Get What You Want and Want What You Have. And he talks about love tanks and how you have a plethora of love tanks and how each one of them needs to be filled. And if any of them are depleted, you're going to suffer. And if any of them are overspilling, you're going to suffer. So what you said right at the beginning of today's talk was sometimes we can have so much love that actually it's too much. And you get that in the honeymoon period where the husband and wife are so infatuated with one another to do everything together, and then eventually start getting sick of one another and start thinking they've got marriage problems so early on, but actually they're doing too much together. And in the 4 Traits book, I've actually quoted Khalil Gibran's poem, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness." Like, let there be spaces, do things that are separate, focus on the other areas of your life, focus on your friends, focus on your spirituality, focus on your self-care, focus on your career, focus on your extended family, your parents, your siblings, your children. Don't just focus on your relationship. And do it all from a place of worship. So when you are going out with your friends, connect it to worship. When you are working on your career, connect it to worship. Every single thing you do as an act of ibadah. And that's actually the very, very first habit of the whole Cherished Muslimah.
I love that so much, and that's really good. And it goes on to the next question that was sent across, actually. And before we get to the break, hopefully you can answer this, and I'll quickly read it out. It says, Sara, once you did talk about women being obedient in Islam, and I really think that this is a beneficial thing to mention for those looking to get married. Personally, my mother-in-law and my husband would throw around the verse in the Quran that says, the righteous women are devoutly obedient and expect all sorts from me, and weekend my faith, until I understood the boundaries, and this was explained to me by Sara. So I mean, that is something that obviously is quite common, that we pick and depict certain verses or certain things in the scriptures, and then we, like you said, we tunnel vision on it. So that is important. Would you like to quickly elaborate before we go into a break?
Yeah, so I'm glad you said quickly elaborate before we go into a break, because this is such a controversial question, right? And alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah for our scholars who have interpreted this in a healthy way. And the way that I have been taught it by my teachers is the righteous women who are obedient has been meant in a context of being obedient to Allah, not being obedient to the husband or the mother-in-law. But there is a lot to be said, and there's a lot of value in an obedient wife, as long as she has a fair and just husband. But when
while you said that, we will leave it there, because that's brilliant how you've just kind of like summed it up in a very short space, and we'll pick it up after the break. And I just want to say, please do stay tuned with us. This is really important information that Sara's giving us from her program, and it's an amazing discussion with everyone taking part. And I've still got more messages. I will read them after the break. Please stay tuned, and we will see you shortly. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Single Muslim Live on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We're here again, this final part of the show, and it's been absolutely amazing having Sara with us tonight. She has shared so many wonderful things, and we have another question in the break. I'm going to read that out now. I'm going to go straight to them because they keep coming fast. It says, Assalamu alaikum, if one is looking to get married, how can they lay good boundaries and expectations about what they want? For example, a woman's finances. Okay, you're going to answer this, but as far as I'm concerned, and from what I believe and what I know I've been taught, is that if I was married, what's yours is mine and what's mine is mine. So how do you sort of interpret that, Sara? It's very simple for me when it comes to finances.
And Islam, that's what it says in the Islamic text, right? The woman's money is her own and the husband's money is there to provide for the family. Actually, this reminds me of the time when I was talking to Sheikh Akram Nadwi about this. And it was really interesting because the way he said it was, like, I don't know what all the women are complaining about the man having the responsibility over the family. He goes, it's a really big responsibility. I wish my wife had the responsibility of looking after the family and I could just enjoy being looked after, but it's not like that. So he was like, what's the big deal? And he was also talking about money and finances as well. And these are questions that should be discussed. And are useful to be discussed. You know, if you're looking to get married, see what your future potential spouse thinks about this matter. See if he's okay with it. What I suggest in the 4 Traits of a Cherished Muslimah is working out working out agreements that work for the both of you, and to see if you're on the same page. Now, ideally, you want to see that you're on the same page before you get married, right? So there's no hidden surprises. However, what often happens, because we're human beings, is sometimes we change our minds after we get married, and it can be problematic. But that still needs to be worked on, you know, and see if it's such a big deal breaker for you if your spouse or your to-be spouse is not on the same wavelength as you. See, you can make any marriage work within reason, with compromise and with flexibility. So I'm trained in neuro-linguistic programming, and in NLP we have a presupposition that says the person with the most flexibility has the most control of the situation. The more flexible that you are, the more you will find things working out in your favor, because you are more accepting of unique situations, unique decisions that you make as a unit to form a win-win situation. So that's what you want to be doing. You want to be looking at, okay, are you okay with me keeping my money? Would you expect me to contribute to the bills, to the running of the home, and see if you're okay with it. So I always say to couples, Find out what works for you. Have your own unique working balance. Don't look to see what so-and-so is doing. Don't look to see what so-and-so advised. See what works for you as a family. And if it's not working for you as a family, see if you can tweak that to make it work. How does that sound to you, Fahima?
I love that. No, it's so true. I think what you said is very, very useful and so beneficial and vital. And we do also have to educate ourselves in knowledge of our rights. We all have our rights, men and women. And it just kind of shows like, you know, we're definitely not oppressed here with kind of rules that are stated in our faith. So again, that is an amazing question. And I love that. We have another one, Sara. It's, I want to remain anonymous. Yeah, of course, that's fine. And it says, could you please shed some light on single Muslims and why is it becoming almost impossible to find a spouse, especially for over 35s, whether it's men or women? How do you feel? Is that something that is quite, because of, you know, today's maybe day and age, the generation, people are getting married a lot later, and even whether it's from previous relationship or even it's their first relationship, we do find a lot of single people from that age group. How is it on your sort of like experience hearing on that?
Yeah. So thank you so much for sending in that question. And I think it is true. And I think one of the contributing factors is the breakdown of communities. You know, it was said as an ancient proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it also takes a village to nurture that child, raise that child, and get that child married off. And I was speaking to somebody who arranges matrimonial events, and they were talking about how our concepts of communities have to start changing. Because first we thought it was the family, the extended family, our local community centre, where you would have all the, you know, the Eid bazaars and the Eid millas going on, and that was sufficient. But even now, everybody's kind of dispersing, moving out, and it's so important that we nurture relationships, we nurture friendships, we nurture our relationships with our local scholars so they know who we are, and we expose ourselves and get out of our houses. I love Dawood Walsby Ali's Nasheed, the people of the boxes. Don't just become people of the boxes, closing yourself inside your little houses with all your trinkets. Get out there, do community work, serve the community. So when the time comes where you need your community, then they can serve you back with these referrals, and they know that you're there and they know who your grown children are. That's for parents. But I think a lot has to be said for like single Muslim and the matrimonial websites.
Absolutely. I was about to say that. I was like, you need to jump on these new ways of finding your spouse. And this is something where everything's collaborated together right now. And this is what singlemuslim.com is about, is to actually find that. And it is for marriage purposes. So if you're serious and you want to make sure that you find somebody, you don't have to go looking anywhere, you know, to several different places and locations. It's all under this amazing application. So please do sort of sign up.
Can I just add to that? So,
absolutely, go for it.
So I have coached ladies who have been on you know, websites such as Single Muslim, and like you said, the whole intention is marriage, but that's where you need to have boundaries even before you're married, because, you know, you do get a lot of time wasters. You get people that are encroaching on your boundaries, and that's where you need to have love isn't just enough for Single Muslim and the matrimonial apps and websites. We also need the boundaries. We also need wisdom. We need to know what the other person is kind of, where they're going with the relationship, so we're not continuously getting hurt, because I know lots of people can get hurt by their expectations not being met with the people that they're talking to online. So I think this whole concept of having boundaries and having wisdom and taking control and leadership over your own life is important when you're single as well as when you're married.
Absolutely. We are all in vulnerable situations at some point in time. And when you're entering into a space like this, then you have to have the knowledge and you have to make it very clear and, you know, make sure that, you know, you do have somebody around you who is supportive, who is actually watching what you're doing, and whoever you're speaking to, they should know the same too, so that, you know, you can filter the ones that are serious and the ones that are not. And not to say that you can't get that even offline. There are people that come to you face to face and they still have the same issues. So it's for everyone, really. We do have another question, actually. Let's see how you're going to take this one. I'm watching this with my friends today, alhamdulillah. A friend wants to ask, do you like British white guys? Have you gotten any hate from them? Good experience with them in life? Thanks. So that is a strange sort of like twist to things. But yeah, every question is relevant. And thank you so much for sending all of these questions. I don't think I've had that many questions in a show until today, like with you, Sara. How can you respond to that? When you define people, when they, obviously talking about their backgrounds and their ethnicity, does it make a difference? What do you think?
I think it's so important for us all to respect all cultures. And I think that's where the concept of respect is so important. And we were talking about earlier about how do single people find the ideal partner when we have that. We don't have such big communities anymore. It's so important that we do welcome in all different races into our communities, and we do get that a lot, don't we? We get the Pakistani community, and they don't really welcome anyone who's from the outside, and they see them as outsiders. They don't really welcome them in their festivities, into their homes, and this really has to change, because we've embraced everything about multiculturalism for our own selves. But we need to do it in a more welcoming and a more compassionate and a real accepting way. And I think lots of prejudices come out, which are really brilliant, because they're a mirror for us. That, look, we still have a prejudice here and we need to overcome that. So I think that's sufficient to say about that.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's so true. It's very much like, it's not about just saying we need to integrate in our work, but we need to invite people into our communities. We never know what difference that can make. And it will also open up their ideas of who we really are, instead of just listening to what is on the media, when they can see it for themselves. And majority of people who have actually experienced that have had an amazing a journey with fellow Muslim communities, no matter where they're from. So yes, we do need to be open. We are coming towards the end of the show, and I just want to ask you a final question, plus to also leave your details if anybody wants to get in contact with you. But the importance of making your family work so you can leave a legacy, and for your family, your community, and the world. We've only got a couple of minutes, so if you can try and answer that, plus leave your details with us so that whoever's watching, they can be in touch with you.
Yeah, I think that's really, really a lovely point to end on. So I think I'll end on that point. So just to say, I've had an absolutely fantastic time today with you, Fahima. It's been great. And the interaction from the listeners and the viewers has been really, really beautiful. I really appreciate that. And I just wanted to say, as a token of appreciation from Cherished Muslimah, if you visit cherishedmuslimah.com/British Muslim TV and sign up, then there's a free gift waiting for whoever signs up. So that's my way of saying thank you to you guys. And you'll also get some special offers for coaching as well. But more importantly, moving to the legacy, it's so important that we change things. Just this last, the last comment that was left about single white Muslims or single white men, it's so important that we change the way we're doing things. We were talking about our parents' generation earlier. We are having unique problems. We're having unique, we've got unique nuances in every single different family. And if we keep with the old ways, we're not going to change. And if we just take baby steps, what we say in Cherished Muslimah is forward, your speed doesn't matter. If we just take baby steps to change things in our communities, on our TV shows, with our friends, in our small communities, in our own homes, we're going to be changing communities. We're going to be changing towns.
Lovely. I love that. That's amazing, Sara. You've left us so many gems, and I appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Thank you so much, Sara, for being with us tonight, and everyone that has interacted and calling in. I really, really so much appreciate you. Thank you so much. Inshallah, we'll see you next time, and thank you all here from British Muslim TV. We wish you an amazing evening and see you next week. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.